that your office there behind in front of the Harbour Bridge?
Now the office, actually, I ended up in the house, in my home today because of the change of the time. I didn't realize the morning when you change it that I need to actually go to North Bondi to serve something, so I couldn't be in the office. So I hope my daughter is sleeping now, so I hope she'll be fine and not.
I've never seen. Look at that view, man. I've never seen a view like that. That's magic.
It's actually raining today, so nothing impressive, but usually it's much better.
I'd imagine your house is the one that everyone goes to on New Year's Eve.
Yes, that's the spot to be. Yeah. No, it's massive. Yeah.
Really, really cool to catch up, and the whole idea of this, right, is to understand and sort of catch up with you. And we wanted to learn the story because you've got a very interesting background personally, and then like learn more about Speedfit and sort of what you guys have been able to achieve over the last few years, and then sort of goals and ambitions in the future. But let's start for you personally. Tell me a little bit more about yourself personally, and where you sort of come from to land here now.
Thank you so much. Personally from Slovakia, originally from there. We came here as a student just to travel across Australia with my now wife, Susanna, and we just fall in love with this country. It's absolutely amazing. So we just traveled for 1 year, then we went back to Slovakia, and at some point we wanted to always come back. So the idea was to invest to some business in Australia, and we managed to actually open the Speedfit in Slovakia as one studio. And a friend of mine, Roland, that I met here, is a fellow Slovakian guy who I met here in Australia. I asked him if he wants to partner up with me and open the Speedfit, and that's how it all started.
Yeah, that's super interesting. A few steps before that, like you're a professional athlete, is that right?
Yeah. So when I was young, when I grew up, I played handball, European handball, not the Australian one. But
Slovakia?
In Slovakia, yeah. So I was part of like a special sports school when we used to train 3 hours a day, pretty much before school, short period of the school, then training again. We were like an elite squad of the Slovakian team, and we would just travel around Europe, and then we will progress from there to play as the professionals. I very quickly realized that I'm not going to be probably one of the best in the world, and probably not be able to provide for my family a good living. So I steered that to business, to entrepreneurship. Always want to do something. So I had various different businesses in real estate, wholesale of some electric components and things like this. But I was still connected to the sport. But when you finish the sporting career, the lifestyles change. I gained weight. I was quite overweight, got injury, and then the Speedfit came as a great solution, to be honest. I was more looking to solve my problem than anyone else. And then I realized that maybe there is more people out there who has the same struggles, that are busy. They want to spend time working in the business or on the business, spending time with the family. I had my little daughter back then born, and I just didn't want to spend hours in the gym. And Speedfit is exactly the solution, that you can just come once a week for 20 minutes. Everything is provided, you go in and out. So we pretty much, with that idea, we just went to Australia and launched the business over there.
How old were you then? How old were you when you finished up handball? And correct me if I'm wrong, maybe this is really ignorant, but like, is handball, it's kind of like the non-water version of like water polo kind of, yeah? Is it?
It's a very Australian way to explain it, and probably you're right, you're very close to that. It's interesting, when I came to Australia, and I was living in WA back then, and I was explaining my neighbors that I was playing handball as a professional, and then a couple of years later we went to the school, and all their kids coming to me and, hey, we want to challenge you because you were like champion in handball. I'm like, what are you talking about? And they play like 4 squares, and all the kids coming to me and like, hey, like, I never seen this. And all my neighbors thought that I was actually playing that as a professional somewhere in Europe. I was like, no, it's actually Olympic sport, and you need to look it up. And when I showed them, and they were like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So yeah, it's quite a large sport actually in Europe specifically, then South America and so on. And probably like you said, water polo, maybe on the ground. It's a lot of tackling, kind of like AFL as well. You're throwing the ball, there is a goal, and there's a goalkeeper as well. So very dynamic sport, very physical sport. I loved it. In Australia, it's not as big. I think AFL stealing the best players, because technically it's very similar to AFL in a way that you need to be tall, you need to be agile, you need to be physical. So, and obviously it's a much better pathway in Australia to play footy than handball financially. So
that's super interesting. So you land so how old were you then that you like when you're like, hey, let's have a crack at Speedfit? So was the EMS that was big in Europe?
Yeah, it's still like relatively compared to anywhere else. Yeah, it's big comparatively to like other fitness modalities. It's maybe not as huge, but to give you perspective, so I was 28 when I invested to Australia. I was quite fortunate that when I was 28, my first daughter was born. I just moved to my house in Slovakia, and I was quite well off from my existing businesses. So the idea to go to Australia was more as a lifestyle challenge, because I was quite bored and I was like, well, this is it. Like, I'm kind of okay. I don't need to do much. Why we don't try something new? So that was the idea. 28-year-old EMS was quite large. It was kind of booming, especially to 2008 when it was like a GFC and there was a lot of challenges economically. A lot of businesses or business owners moved to these small EMS studios. It's like a small footprint. There's not much cost involved to set it up, and it was very effective. And a lot of people started to look for more, I would say, time efficient way to exercise, because there was a lot of pressure to get the jobs and perform to keep up with, there was a high employment rate in Europe and so on. So especially in Germany, this EMS concept kind of boomed. And today there will be probably, I don't know, maybe 2,000 studios in Germany alone. And in Spain will be another 1,000 and so on and so on. So there's quite large footprint, but because every studio is usually a beauty studio and catering between probably 100 to 200 members. If you look at the members base in Europe compared to like 24/7 gyms or something, it's still quite small, but there is a lot of facilities, and that's what we saw as a trend. So we established one location in Slovakia, and then from there, as I said, we set one in WA and built it from there.
It's a really cool story, and like I would never have thought there's 2,000 locations in Germany. Like it's a large number.
Yeah, it is. There are some cities in Europe that has like a massive number. Like if you go to Paris alone, in France, for example, there will be 100 studios just Paris alone. Right? And then same thing if you go to Munich and things like this. So yeah, it's in Europe. It's now quite common. It's pretty much like a retail footprint. Usually, it's around 80 square meters, and it's very personal. People come in and out, so maybe it's not as visible that you won't see it as when you have the large, fitness centers or any like premium gyms that's out there. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of studios out there.
Fragmented market. Is it like brands, or is there one like big player, two big players?
Good question. Yes, it depends on the country. I think it's very driven by the culture of certain countries. So Australia, for example, is very franchise driven, right? A lot of people wants to get a franchise. That's why like we as a franchisor are here, and people usually asking us to get a concept, get a tools, get a systems and template how to run the business. If you go to Europe, Eastern Europe, where I'm from, like Slovakia or Poland or some countries like this, franchise is not as common. Usually people think to create their own concept and they do it themselves. Then you go to Germany. In Germany, yes, it's probably like 2-3 really big brands. One of them, it's probably over 300 locations in German-speaking countries. That will be the largest franchisor, probably at the moment in the world. And in France, again, you will have two players. One has 150 locations, the other one has 120 locations. And then you have your little independent studios. And then you go to Spain, for example, and Spain has, I believe, around 1,000 locations, but mostly individual studios. The personal trainers, they have their own equipment and they're just doing their own thing.
Tell us a little bit about like the product or the system itself. Like what is it?
EMS, it stands for electromuscle stimulation. So it's technology that's been developed many years back, especially for professional athletes, mostly in Russia. Then the Germany was using it as well. One of the famous athletes, Usain Bolt, was using this technology when he was recovering in Germany from his injury. The way how it works, it's pretty much it stimulates your muscles directly. So if you're thinking about the conventional exercise, you usually need to think that you want to lift something, so the information going kind of from the brain, the electricity kind of traveling to your muscle, you engage the muscle, you're lifting the weight, and that's how you engage in the muscle and muscle fibers because of how much weight you need to lift. what EMS does, that pretty much it's kind of bypassing the brain and just goes straight away on the surface of your muscle, on your skin, and goes straight away to your muscle and create the same contraction that you will do if you will, for example, lift the weight. What is amazing about this technology, because it's instant, it's pretty much can grab much more muscle fibers. So usually what happens, you have you only engage as many muscle fibers as is enough to lift certain weight. So generally speaking, we will engage probably 20%, maybe if you are athlete, 30-35% of your muscle fibers. You will recruit them. With EMS, you can do up to 90% because it's like quick snap and pretty much grab your muscle. When they discovered this technology, they started to use it for professional athletes because they realized it's engaging mostly fast twitch muscle fibers, so it makes you faster. That's why Usain Bolt and a lot of athletes using specifically EMS technology. So even today, if you work with some elite clubs in handball, soccer, in Europe football, and so on, they will usually have the EMS technology on site. And the physios or the sport and conditioning trainers, they will use it when someone is injured or when they're working on specific muscle group to increase the dynamic movement.
Yeah, super interesting. And I imagine too, like especially for them athletes, like there's a massive risk when they're doing something outside of their chosen sport or what they're getting paid for that they could hurt themselves. And I imagine like with this scenario, like that the risk is like eliminated, because there's no impact on the body so much, but you're still getting the benefits or the results from it.
Exactly. So that's one of the benefits. That's what we're utilizing as well at Speedfit, that it's low impact exercise. There's pretty much zero injury rate because you just can't injure yourself. There's no external movements or external lifting of anything. And what is amazing as well about this technology is that you can specifically engage certain muscle groups and you don't need to do physical activity as well. So if you have someone who, let's say, has torn hamstring or have any issues with the knee, you still can utilize the EMS technology on the rest of your body. And as you engaging all of these muscle fibers, pretty much it's create the same impact for your body as a high intensity interval training. So it's pretty much your heart rate goes up. So your body doesn't recognize that, for example, you're not running or you're not sporting. So when you then, after your injury, you recover and you go back to the training process, the recovery is much quicker because your body pretty much was still trained, even you couldn't run, for example.
What about, I just had a thought, like for someone that's in a wheelchair or has an accident, like can you use EMS, like say I lost the function of my legs, could you use that to continue having muscle or contract their muscles?
Yes, 100%. Exactly. Spot on, Carton. That's what we're using as well at Speedfit. It has that amazing ability of the EMS that, as I explained, it's bypassing kind of your connection between brain and so on, and goes directly to the skin and muscle. So if, for example, you are disabled in that way and the connection is not there anymore and you can't move the legs, and we have several clients of like this at Speedfit, we can still pretty much engage those muscles. So pretty much the legs getting toned, they're getting stronger, the abs, the people losing weight and so on, because they're just wearing the suit, which stimulates in the muscles pretty much directly without them doing the work.
I know the current iteration of the product is corded. Is that right, Matej? And then it's sort of shifting. The industry seems to be shifting to almost like a wireless suits as well. Is that's happening?
Yes, really good point. It's obviously a lot of evolution. So this, when you ask me like when it's kind of like started, probably if you go a little bit back, and when I mentioned that it was used for athletes, we're talking probably 70s, 80s. That's when it was used. Maybe before, I know some of the, especially in Russia, the astronauts were using it because to maintain muscle mass up in space, that's how they were kind of engaging their muscles. And then in the 90s in Germany, they created the first, I would say, the consumer product where you can actually suit up the clients and start using it. If I will have a photo of this, it was very ugly machine. Looks like some sort of Russian kind of things, electrodes everywhere. Maybe you've seen something if you look it up, Bruce Lee. Like Bruce Lee was one of them using it back in 70s, and maybe you've seen there is videos on YouTube when he's wearing on chest some ugly kind of straps, and he's talking about him doing like 1,000 push-ups in 10 minutes, or in Rocky when he was fighting the Dolph Lundgren, the Russian guy in the Rocky, he was using that as well, and while he was preparing. So there was few references like this, when actually you can look it up. It was already kind of out there, but it was still very, very edgy. And then in 90s, as I said, German engineers kind of turned it into more like consumer product, and then it evolved from there. As you said, Zach, it was all connected to the cable. It was very restricted. You pretty much have to be close to the trainer and so on and so on. And as we're progressing, this technology is now mostly wireless. There is also one big development that before you used to use the water to spray the kind of like the garments that you have on yourself to create a conductivity. Now there is a new generation of the electrodes that pretty much using your own perspiration, so you don't actually need to use any water. Sometimes you can use like a body lotion or something, but you don't need to even use the water to create that conductivity. So wireless, no water, this is the new system that pretty much you can just go and use it. And what is the next evolution? What I see already happening around the world or in kind of development is pretty much create almost like a lifestyle clothing that similar when you go and let's say do cycling or something, you can just put your clothes on it and it has the electrodes in it, and pretty much you can start simulating your muscles, and also you can take the information from the muscle back. So now it's pretty much two-way information coming. That's what we actually launched at Speedfit just recently, the technology called Symbiont, that now we can measure your heart rate, we can measure your calories, we can measure all your biometrics, because the electrode is pretty much kind of like a sensor that you have on your skin, and we can send the impulse one way, but we can also collect the information the other way.
It's going to unlock a lot of data for you guys at Speedfit as well. What's the, I know it's only an early sort of improvement, what sort of calories could you burn in a, say, 20-minute Speedfit session? Like what's the sort of expectation there?
It was always referring to probably around 500 calories. It's very difficult to create the formula. At the moment, we counting the calories, but the way how it is, they created kind of formula, like what the electrodes or the EMS itself doing on top of your normal standard calorie burn. So if you're doing a 20-minute session, it usually shows you that you have additional between 100 to 200 calories on top of your standard move, and depends on what you're doing. It's a combined effect of the EMS. It's not just the calories, it's also, because it's so intense, the biggest impact what happens is usually that afterburn, because when you're using the EMS, usually you're burning calories for under 48 hours. So it's much longer because the recruitment of muscles is much deeper, and that's why you're actually restricting yourself to do 1 or 2 sessions a week, because your recovery is much longer than if you just do conventional workout.
Really need to try it out.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's hard. I can imagine what it's like, but I think it's one of those things until you go and do it, you just can't really comprehend it.
You just need to kind of do it, and then you go, oh, now I get it. Because I can explain to you what it is, but until you actually physically feel it, you go, oh, okay, I get it. And for a lot of people who try it, and especially when I'm sure you guys love your workout, especially when you love like high intensity exercise training and stuff like this, you will feel that this is much more intense. And for many people, it's very hard to go back. I feel the same way, because I go back to gym and I go like, yeah, okay, I'm doing one exercise at a time, one muscle group at a time. I'm like, I know there is a better way to do it, but I'm going backwards. It's almost like when you're driving the Ferrari and then someone tells you, well, back to Toyota, and you go, I already tried something better. So
from your point of view, is it an education piece to try to communicate that to the broader market, to like the people that haven't tried it before? Because like, I know in Australia at least, or I have an understanding in Australia, like we partner a workout with the heavy breathing, with the sweat, with the endorphin, with the tired and the fatigue. Like, is it a psychological or an educational piece, with communicating, hey, EMS is actually amazing for you, but you're not necessarily going to get that big endorphin or the fatigue?
Very good question. First of all, yes, education is our biggest barrier to scale up the business. A lot of people are skeptical. It's a very different mindset probably here compared to, let's say, Europe, where everyone's like, hey, open-minded, let's try it, it's something new, something cool. Or similar in Asia, when they much more embrace maybe the new technology. Here it's more about, well, I know my weights, I know my way how to do it, why to try something else? So education is a big piece. And similar like what you said, actually there is a research that shows that after EMS, actually you have more endorphins than after normal exercise. So they compare the high intensity interval training and they compare the EMS, and you have more endorphins afterwards. The fatigue, you have bigger fatigue than after normal training, like because it's recruiting more muscles. So you know how it works. Like when you go to gym, you do exercise, and let's say you tear your muscles, right? And you need to kind of wait the time until they kind of regrow again and get stronger. With EMS, you as I said, like you don't just let's say cut 30%, you go at 90%, and the tear is much stronger or bigger, so the recovery takes much longer. So Actually, if you like, obviously we have different types of clients, but I'm sure if you guys will hit it and you just smash the workout, you will feel it much more than any other workout you've ever done. I can guarantee you.
Is there any, does Speedfit own any sort of certain IP or technology that is unique and special to you guys?
Not necessary. I would say that we operate, I usually use reference to kind of like a McDonald's when you're expanding, right? Like they also kind of own more like a systems and what they do, but they don't actually own the IP on the burger or bun or something like this, but it's more a system and what you do and how you do it. So that's how we started with the business. We pretty much use the open technology, which is EMS. We were using one specific brand from Germany for many years, and recently we changed to new technology. And for these technologies I mentioned, Symbion, we are also an exclusive distributor for Australia and New Zealand. So now it's kind of very unique to Speedfit. But generally speaking, EMS is a free technology, similar to yoga or Pilates. Like anyone can just go and say, hey, I'm going to open a Pilates studio. I'm going to call it KX because it's going to be more dynamic, or I'm going to call it certain way and create a brand around it. So with EMS, it's very similar as well. But as I mentioned now with the Symbion, we have these exclusive rights. So if you become Speedfit franchisee, no one can have the same technology as we have.
Yeah, like EMS is the modality and the way that you deliver it and the environment, the feel, the look, the community, technology. Yeah, is Speedfit. It's unique to you.
Yes, spot on. Yeah.
How many locations are open in Australia at the moment, Matej?
At the moment, it's 29 locations across Australia. Yeah, and we're just about to open New Zealand. That's actually a new thing. We just about to sign the lease. We already sold the location. So before this call, I was actually working on a few things over there, and we're super excited about to branch out there as well.
Is there what's the sort of R&D involved in New Zealand, like to look at like to expand into New Zealand as opposed to like Singapore or something like that? Is it purely like you have a franchisee there that has interest, or?
We are planning to go to New Zealand. I think it's much closer than just go to Singapore. We have few opportunities to go to Singapore as well. I think as a franchisor, the one challenge is to make sure that it's all, I would say, scalable, and you can do it in a way that it's not not costing you so much money. You don't need to create all the new system and so on. And obviously Australia and New Zealand has so much, a lot of things we can apply and use the same thing, right? So even when we're now looking at any systems like CRM systems, right? We're using, let's say MindBody, we're using Zero, we're using a lot of these systems that we're using. It's pretty much fully transferable to New Zealand. So usually as a franchisor, when you're expanding, you're looking at that option as well, and you're going, okay, how quickly I can scale up or replicate what I already got in that market, and how different it will be. Obviously, if we'll go to Singapore, you need to go with much more aggressive plan. You need to probably invest much more money. You need to probably secure or sell much more territories upfront to fund the whole operations, and probably you will need to have a local team as well to make sure that everything is done in a correct way, and you can support your franchises in the right way. With New Zealand, we feel that we are able to do it from here, from Australia, and that's why it was for us as a first step to expand and create like an international brand.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. From a breakdown of them 29, like how many of them are corporate owned at the moment to franchisees?
I don't even know, to be honest. We have 4 corporate locations, 4 corporate, and then we also have a unique concept called like joint ventures. So during COVID, we learned hard way. We used to have much more corporate locations, and we were not. To be honest, we never came to franchise to be a franchisor. Like when I go back to like Speedfit, we never started originally to become a franchisor. That was never the idea. We pretty much set up one location in WA, and we opened second and so on and so on. And we kind of get to level of 6 locations. And then people were coming actually to us and asking, hey, I want to buy a franchise. And we're like, well, we are not franchise. Go and buy equipment and just do your thing, right? Because that's how we thought. And then more and more people are coming and asking us. And that's with my Eastern European mindset. I was like, I can do it myself. You can do it as well. But then we found out that no, people in Australia prefer that we tell them how we do things, how it can be run. So they want to kind of buy to our expertise, get the recipe for a success and just replicate it. So we actually created franchise systems slightly different than many franchisors when they're kind of coming together and go like, okay, we'll set up one store as a template and we create a scalable model and we just started selling franchises. We were very different in that way. So I think because of that start, we actually ended up probably with like 10 corporate locations. Because every time we came across sites, we were like, we know how to do the business. Why to give it to someone else if we can do it ourselves? That was our mindset back then. Very quickly after launching the franchisees, we learned that actually dedicated franchisee working in one location can do much better job that we can do as a corporate entity. And specifically during COVID, we were really exposed because obviously the challenges, traveling, work-related, especially in WA, where we had most of our locations, mining went through the boom. They were throwing money at anyone who was moving just to make sure that they're coming on site and working there. Obviously, when you have corporate employees, many of them picked a much better salary over there, and we ended up with very little resources in our corporate locations, opposite to franchisees, owner operators who are still embedded in a business and doing a great job. So we kind of started the transition and we started selling off the corporate locations and turning them into either franchise or joint venture. And joint venture is probably our really good model as well, where we're giving opportunity to especially the young guys who've been working for us and they show the talent, but not necessarily have a capital behind them to kind of go for a full franchise. We usually offer them either vendor finance or we kind of split the cost 50-50. We have the model that we own 51%, they own 49%. And currently we have, I think 7 of these joint venture locations, probably. And the rest are franchises.
Yeah, that's cool. And I imagine one of the cool things about that too is creating opportunities for these guys that, you know, like you mentioned before, like they don't have the capital, or then they might not have like any ambition, or like they might not have any roadmap to be able to find themselves in a position. So to be able to offer them that, I would imagine would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's for me, like personally, probably the biggest thing and impact we're making. Like you see exactly these young guys coming in, kind of super excited about the opportunity, and they love what they love to do. But then the reality hits them later on and go like, well, if I want to actually own the house and provide for a family, I can't stay on $50,000-$60,000 salary. I need to really hustle myself up, and I need to find a way how to do it. But they don't necessarily want to do and work in the office or work for big corporations. They actually wanted to be with the clients. They love helping everyone else and so on. So this joint venture is amazing opportunity for these people to go, well, you can still do what you want to do, but you can end up on a very, very good salary or income that you can actually provide for your family bill. And we see that's what's happening. So then I see that we have joint venture partners for year 2 and how it's impacting their family, their financial situation, everything. It's absolutely rewarding to watch how they grow.
Do you think that, like for you guys, you'll still entertain both the joint ventures and franchisees, or like is there one that you like? Would you prefer joint ventures, or like, yeah, is it just play both sides?
For us, it's all about the person. So if we come across the right person and we know it's the right person, then we're also going through the process to identify what is the right person, what is the right thing for that person. So if you come across you and you said, hey, I want to be, we identify you that you're going to be an amazing operator, and you tell me, hey, I want to own the whole piece because this is what I want to do. Of course, you own franchise. We are happy that we have you part of the network. Opposite, if you come across and say, hey, I want to help, or I want to have support, or I can't afford it, that's where we step in. So it's all starting with, are you the right person for the job? If you are, then we'll find a way and make it happen.
From a HQ point of view or a corporate, like what are you responsible for like just, and let's use the franchisee as an example. Is it all the marketing? Is it like, what do you guys do and what are they responsible for?
As a support office, so we have a support office, and obviously it evolved over the time. As I mentioned at the very beginning, we were more like corporate locations and we had less franchises than corporate locations. So many things that we had in the system was set up for support for the corporate locations. And when I look back, probably that was a little bit of maybe downside for us and upside for franchisees, because we actually were doing so much. Like I remember one of our first franchisee, Paul, he bought 5 territories out of us straight away. It was our first franchisee. He said, I'm buying 5. He had at the time a couple of Jets locations and I think 4 or 5 F45s, and he couldn't believe what support we're providing. And we were kind of coming that mindset like, hey, whatever our studio manager, corporate manager needs, that's what we assume the franchise needs as well. And we kind of went there, we built the studio for him, we set up the launch, we set up the marketing, we get the leads to his studios, and we were helping him to close the sales and do all of that stuff. And he was like, oh, okay guys, you can actually chill. It's a lot. And obviously there was a challenge then to scale it up, because the support that we were providing was quite a lot. So over the time we obviously evolved the structure, and now we're pretty much running the marketing fund for franchisees, that we run all the paid advertising. So we kind of providing probably again more support than typical franchisor. Usually they provide only like a national marketing support. We providing even the local paid advertising, and we're running the campaigns on behalf of franchisees, so they don't need to worry about meeting with the local agency and trying to get some ads and spending time and energy on that. We take care of that. So that's our marketing fund, and then we have the pretty much full operation system. We have head of operations in place. We have pretty much performance and growth manager. So all the business coaching, all that quarterly meetings, all the educations that are happening on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, is pretty much set up and delivered in-house by our team. So anything that they need from, I would say, running the business, training, instructors, hiring, managers, anyone who is whatever kind of, I would say, anything in the business that you need to do, we either have a manual, we have the online training for it, and then we have also a person who can train you in like physically if you pretty much didn't get it through the online training.
Seems like a significant amount of support.
Yeah, like I honestly think that's the case. Many times we have feedback. We obviously as we scaled up, we have opportunity to hire people from with a lot of experience and coming from different brands, and usually their feedback is exactly like this. They kind of look at it as like, "Well, it's a lot. It's a lot what you do, guys, for the franchisees." They're probably not maybe embracing what you're doing, or they don't appreciate what you're doing because they haven't seen a different system. But it's interesting to get that feedback from the guys who've been working in different system, either on the support office level, or as I mentioned, our first franchisee was exposed to other brands. For them, it's a clear winner as a strategy. And now actually at this stage, he pretty much specifically, he doesn't have any jets on F45s anymore, and it's only purely working with Speedfit. So I think that's testament as well that our system is very good.
One thing I have noticed as well is, especially in the group fitness space, there seems to be a movement from a support or a HQ level that they've been forced now with so many different brands coming to market that they must focus on the franchisee. I think previously, like in the sort of 2015 to 2018, it was like they could bring a brand to market and they didn't have to support because they just were flooded with new leads and new inquiries, and they could slap a brand on the door and make a lot of money. And then other brands noticed that, and then they come to market, and then COVID happened, and all of a sudden it's like now they need to double down and give a huge amount of support to the franchisee, and that some brands that have never done that, and they're struggling right now in the current market.
And the systems, the businesses can't support it. Having other systems to support that different delivery model.
I agree 100%. Like obviously there are some brands out there, I think we all know some of them in the fitness industry, who pay the way in some way, but also create a lot of damage on a personal level. And obviously it's not just in fitness. Like that was one thing that when we go to franchise, we making sure that all our support office and franchisee understanding that we also part of the franchise industry. And if we screw up something, it's pretty much impacting anyone else. And I think franchisors didn't have as great name in many ways because of exactly what you said. It's probably was also in food, retail, also in fitness, that they pretty much sell you something and that's it. Pretty much we're here to collect the fees and it's up to you to make it happen. It's different mentality, I think, also in Australia. I think we need more support, I think, as we are. It was interesting to see when we went first time to US for a conference, and we saw that mentality in US is kind of like that. They kind of go, well, if I failed, it's up to me. Right? Like I probably didn't work as hard as you did. Opposite in Australia is more like when I failed, it's like, it's a franchisor mistake, right?
Yeah,
because they didn't support me as much as they should. So I think we need to obviously address that as well. That's just how it is. It's a culture. So we should be providing for that culture and help everyone as much as we can. But I agree as well. A lot of franchises that were burned through that process, they were kind of left out. They initially make some money. It will be interesting to know how many of them made a good money. There were probably many that they didn't. And now those other brands realize that, yes, if you want to have a sustainable business and not just make a quick buck, but just scale and sell and burn everything behind, we need to pretty much create an amazing system and support system that the franchises can thrive in a system for long term and not just for long term.
Because I think too, actually there was a guy, he actually founded one of the largest insurance companies in Australia in the 80s. And Zach and I had dinner with him a little while ago, and he said that like a good deal will always find money. And I think that's like in a way as well, like if you deliver an amazing product and you deliver an amazing service to your franchisee and they do make money, then people will find out about that. They will, like,
Yes.
that owner will want more locations, and people will understand that there's a huge opportunity inside that, and that will attract them. So you don't need to sell so much, right? You just need to like continue like offering an amazing service, get your franchisees to make good money, and then people will find out about it.
I agree with that. Obviously, the franchise code is a little bit tricky, and we can't disclose as much as we would love to. Obviously, we have our corporate locations, and we can be much more upfront about that. But yeah, that's what I would suggest all the franchisees as well. Go and find out how many locations were closed and why. What is the franchise actually making money, and then you know what you up to get. Many times it's not the case. I think people probably see just as 1, 2 super successful. They heard the stories. They don't understand the relationship between individual metrics. There is a couple of new brands now popping up quite quickly, and what I heard, the way how they're signing up leases, for example, they pretty much trying to get any side they can, and they overbidding the prices. And we know that once you are out of the ratio, no matter what happens, there's a very slim chance you're going to be successful. So I think franchising is all about that model that you need to be clear on. Okay, how much I can pay maximum for the wages, how much I can maximum pay for the side, and so on. And if that's everything kind of ticking the box, then it's a recipe for success. But many times we see that there is one great recipe for success, and then people just kind of replicate it without actually looking what are the ingredients. They're changing their proportion, and they're thinking, well, because it's that brand, it's going to guarantee me the success. But they forgot that they actually change the ratio almost on every single item, and no matter what brand, it's probably not going to carry for you.
What, as a franchisee looking to get into the business, what would a typical kind of investment look like? And I know it's hard because you got different capital expenditure, but like what would just typical sum investment to get into one of these things?
Yeah, I think Speedfit is amazing in a way that it can cater for like probably the lower entry fee compared to standard gyms, and it's purely driven because we don't use much equipment. Pretty much the suite that you have, it's the full gym, so that pretty much makes the difference. So to open Speedfit, it's usually ranging between $150,000 to $250,000 all together, including marketing, fit out, equipment, cash that you need all together.
And like a payback period, like cash on cash payback period for something like that. Like typically, like is it 5 years, is it 10 years? Like what do you sort of usually see for a business that's sort of recently opened? And again, location's obviously very critical. But sort of if you can speak to it.
Yeah. Like I honestly can. I wish that there would be more information out there, to be honest, because that's the valid questions. Like you as a potential franchisee, you should definitely have that clarity what those things are. What is the benchmark for the lease? What is the term and things like this? So we're sharing that obviously with everyone who inquiring about the franchise. Generally speaking, 5 years is the best. We want to make sure that we have at least 5 year term as an initial one, and ideally you have 5 plus 5 plus 5 option, because then you can renew and you don't need to move, because obviously the biggest cost is to set it up. And a lot of people don't realize, even if you need to move or close, there is actually many times that you actually have to make good the tenancy. So you kind of invest a lot of money at the very beginning, and if you don't have enough time in the site, you pretty much all the profits can go back to make good at the end. And I've seen that mistake many times, that some franchises sign up the lease for 2-3 years, and you're thinking, wow, what's going to happen after? It's going to be great. Landlord has the leverage. They're going to increase the rent, and if you're not going, and then if they push it over the tip and it's not profitable for you anymore, you want to leave, but then you need to make a tenancy. So for us, we are very, very specific about the lease and how it needs to be done, and the 5 years is the minimum. And pretty much every site is like this: 5 plus 5 plus 5. Or if there are any specific incentive from the landlord that if you commit to longer term, we also have few leases that are 7 years as a first term.
From a location point, do you typically see your best performing studios work well in like high density areas? Is it is it main streets? Is it in shopping malls?
It's interesting. Like everyone's the location is super important. But it's very difficult to figure out what makes the location perfect. And there is a lot of people out there who will charge you money for finding the perfect location. And some of them I had the opportunity to talk to when they were in a really nice mood, and they admitted that it's probably always like 50-50, no matter what you're looking at. And that's what we see as well. As I said, we're always starting from the person, because once we know that person is right, we are in a service-based industry. It's not like you're selling the product when you go and you're coming for that specific ice cream or you're coming for that specific burger or something. You're coming for the experience. Yes, you come first time because of the maybe EMS technology or the results that you're after, but you stay because of the person servicing you. So when we start from that person, that's pretty much most of the success. We never had to close any franchise location so far. We've been around for 11 years and we haven't closed one. It starts from that person in a business, and then the location. Very challenging question, because I've seen it working here and there. We have sites in shopping centers, we have sites in retail strips, we have sites in more kind of like not in a metro area and so on. And it's very difficult to say which one is working or which one is not. It usually comes down to the person. I would say that generally we see more trends when you are kind of more less cost involved locations in terms of the mortgages and so on. I think one thing what I heard from other businesses as well, that when you come to like here in Sydney in those premium spots and people paying so much money for mortgages, rent and so on, even they're making a lot of money, the disposable income is not there as much, and they have so many opportunities because you come to one street and you have pretty much 10 different brands. And then opposite you go to, let's say, Central Coast, and the income might not be as much there, but technically people have much more money to spend, and there is less services to be kind of serviced there. So that's what I heard from other brands, and for us it's definitely working as well, in a way that we have very, very successful locations who are not in a prime spot where you will be typically thinking that you have to be in Bondi because everyone has to be in Bondi, or you have to be, in Potts Point or something like this. And then you open in some regional WA in Broome or something, and because there's no competition, you just, no matter what quality, no matter what service you provide, it will still just blow the roof out because it's like there's nothing else. So everyone just comes in and do it.
What typical customer demographic is it? Is it female, male, and age groups? Like who do you say your target market is?
At Speedfit, we are quite specific about target market, and I know that Courtney mentioned like everyone's kind of associating exercise in certain way how we feel about the exercise. But the truth is that only 25% of population actually goes to gym, right? So there is actually 75%. It's crazy. Right?
It's incredible when you hear that statistic. It's like what's everyone else doing? What are they doing?
Yes, exactly. But it's crazy. But I think after COVID and now everything, I think it dipped in Australia. I think 28%. There was one statistic that shows 28. But even 25 or 28 or 20, globally, almost no nation has more than 30% technically owing the gym membership, right? So it's crazy that we actually have 70% of population who doesn't do anything, they don't sign up. So we need to be also understanding that this is the market, and maybe when you're really going for this 30% and all the brands going for this 30%, that's called blue ocean strategy, when you go and say, well, maybe there is a 70% and there's no one else taking care of them. So we at Speedfit, we aspiring to tap into that 70%, to be honest, and I think we're quite successful. Many of our clients are non-gym goers, as we call them. They're pretty much intimidated going to the gyms. They don't like crowded places. They don't like sweaty people hanging around. Many of them, 90% of our clients are 35 plus. Usually they have the kids, they have the families, they have the friends. They're not looking to meet new people. So I think every business obviously catered for different demographic. In our way, we quickly realized that people who are coming to us are not necessarily looking for new bodies. They wanted to have a social aspect during the studio session, but outside of the studio, done and dusted. They are busy in their lives already, so they're not looking for a new friends. So 70% females, 90% 35 years and older.
How long is the session?
Depends what you do. I mean, a session itself, it's kind of 20 to 23 minutes. Now with this new technology, we kind of included warm up and cool down as well. So it's technically 23 minutes. But obviously depends if you, like a lot of clients coming in and out in half an hour. Some decided to take shower and so on, depends what you obviously want to do. So it can take up to 45 minutes probably in and out with everything. At Speedfit, we are like all-inclusive place, like everything is provided there for you. So when you walk into our studio, you get free pre-workout drink, you get free post-workout drink, everything is included, the shower facilities, everything is done. So it depends on what your situation is. Sometimes clients coming already suited up in the equipment, they just come on a spot, they get a session, 23 minutes off they go. And some people come in before, they want to chat to someone, they want to see their pre-workout drink. It's kind of their place where they want to be for 45 minutes outside of their busy lifestyle, do the session, get a shower, get their protein shake, and then go on their own thing.
Do you see a time where potentially the suits could be like used from home, like virtually as well?
Very good question. Actually, that's Actually, I can ship you a few. Actually, that's why we actually sign up with this new technology Symbiont that we're using, because I strongly believe that there is a market for this. And I actually testing this app for last month. So I have in my phone the app that and I have a suite at home. I can set it up everything, and then just from the phone I can adapt my intensities. So it's definitely something that it's coming. We're gonna launch this pretty much this calendar year, and we would love to see that clients pretty much coming to the studios. For people who are not familiar with what to do and how to train, we'll offer the kind of like that personal training at the very beginning, maybe small group personal training as they progress, and then eventually they might just say, well, you know what, I'm good, I'll do it at home. That's definitely the option. For people like you that you know how to move, you know what to do, you have your probably mindset set up that you're going to actually do it, because that's the biggest challenge of home exercises, that people coming to our studios to actually be pushed and do stuff. But obviously there is certain demographic of people who are very well set and they will do it regardless if someone's watching or not. So I think, we are super excited about this. So it's definitely a remote option. That's one thing. And another option of the technology that we distribute in Australia and New Zealand and have in Speedfit is that you can also do remote training, but I can do it live. So similar like we have now session, I could through that app actually control your suit. So I can actually sign up someone as a trainer. We can schedule the training, and you guys can be based on Central Coast. You can have a cousin in Italy, we can have someone from China, we can all log into one site, and I can be your trainer, and I can guide you to the training, and I can adjust the intensities for everyone. I can guide you as a personal training, and that's pretty much another step of Speedfit journey.
I look at it like if I had, my wife's got a reformer we've got a reformer in our shed, and I don't know the first thing about the reformer, and I want to learn because I know they're quite beneficial to do Pilates, but I could imagine putting one of these suits on and doing Pilates with the suit and just really triggering those muscles. Like Pilates is hard already, but I can imagine that it really take it up a next level, like wearing an EMS suit while you do Pilates and holding these contractions, and that would be a fairly intense workout, I'd imagine.
100%. Obviously, we at Speedfit, we trying to avoid kind of combining another modalities and stuff like this, because we pretty much looking for low impact exercise and trying to really specifically work on that EMS modality. Because one thing would happen as well, when you're purely focusing on EMS, you can actually get much more and higher recruitment of the muscles, because you don't need to worry about external things, like weights or extra machinery. And we know that EMS is actually more efficient than any other modality, right? So then it will be kind of contradicting to say, well, go on this machine and try to, let's say, lift the weight, because then you're obviously holding back on EMS itself. But saying that, there's definitely room for it. And that's what we see as a trend as well in Europe, that people can buy the equipment to home and they can use it whatever they want. They can use it for running, walking, Pilates, yoga, whatever you want to do, because the EMS can be set up in very different ways. Like what we're using at Speedfit are two major setups. One is for strength development, the other one is more like cardio based, but they are recovery settings. They are different. When you change the frequency, it's interacting with different muscle groups, different muscle fibers, I would say. So you can actually create something that is maybe enhancing the exercise and increasing more your heart rate and all that stuff while you're doing Pilates, and you combine it together and you have pretty much superficial results.
So Matej, I actually put a ruck on. I put a 30 kilo weight vest on and I go for a ruck nearly every day. Well, not every day, I do it every day, but could you do that? Like, could you Speedfit and just walk and like put a program on it and just go for a walk with a dog and get a workout in? Like, is that how it could work?
100%. I actually tried it as well. When we had the guys from Germany actually here to present the technology to us, we went for a walk on the bridge and we just did it and tested it out. And it's pretty much exactly that. You can enhance daily activities, and that's what the people behind this technology or the guys who are working on it, that's how they see it. They see that in couple of years, pretty much the EMS will be embedded into our daily routines that you can pretty much collect the biodata. So you pretty much wear the equipment. It will tell you probably, well, Zach, today you're tired because yesterday you were having this 20 kilo vest or 30 kilo vest. You shouldn't today probably go for a thing because we can see that you're fatigued. So let's go for a relax mode or go for recovery mode and use it for 45 minutes while you maybe even standing and working, or maybe going for a walk, going with your dog, or whatever you do. Yeah.
Yes.
That's a whole different world when you can figure that out, and like, yeah, it's very, very interesting. See the movement. So say like say I wear the suit and squat or stretch my arms overhead. Is my body moving, targeting different muscles? Like, is that an important part of movement?
Good question. Yes. Yeah. So the EMS work in a ways that if you imagine maybe in the 90s when you saw on the TV that people were kind of watching the TV and having like a belt that it kind of stimulates your abs and you're like just sitting there. It's kind of like how the EMS really started.
Thanos Direct was, you could sit there and it was just like a shake. Yeah, it used to like vibrate. Yeah, what was that called?
Yeah, so that's pretty much, and that's what like Bruce Lee was using as well. So there are kind of like the originals when it started, and a lot of physio are still using stance machines, right? But the EMS is more kind of the larger scale, different frequency, and so on. So technically, it does work when you do nothing, and that's when we Zach talk about the disabled person, right? So you can actually make it work, and you will get a result. But what is interesting that if you actually engage muscle, it's kind of create a synergy effect as well. So if our clients, let's say, coming in a very bad shape, they are not physically healthy, they are not able to move, they might have an injury or might be not physically able, we might let them to just stand, for example, and hold the bar and maybe go to their tippy toes, and the EMS does the work. And as soon as they start progressing, gaining pretty much the muscles, improving their stamina, then we start adding squats, lunges, and stuff like this. And while for you guys, the session will be completely different, right? Like we will probably do very dynamic exercises. We might throw some floor exercises. We might apply external resistance to your moves because we want to recruit your muscles even faster and more. And the EMS will pretty much amplify the impact when you're actually doing the work as well.
Is there any like, maybe you guys are doing it in the background, I'm not sure, but is there any sort of movement or attention from governing bodies like Medicare or like the health industry? Because from what I'm learning, even just from this, right, there's a huge opportunity to try to, as a country, right, like we're a very obese country. Like you're talking about getting results by not physically having to do anything. Like even to get someone from 300 kilos down to 200 kilos to be able to do half a squat. Like is there going to be, or do you imagine there's a movement from the government that would help support or supplement some of the costs of EMS to get these guys moving?
Actually, I saw today there was some sort of poll, I think the Channel 7 or someone was doing, or some newspaper was doing, if the government's supposed to do like a GST free for gym memberships. Like even if you start there, like not even talking about the EMS, just talking about that actually the physical movement helped to solve so many problems, mental problems, physical problems, cost of, like all the medical bills and stuff like this. So I would love to start there, not even thinking about the EMS, but to be honest, we kind of working on it, and we would love to see obviously more support in that way. But Speedfit is registered NDIS provider. That's one thing. So pretty much we went through the process, and when we have people with whatever modalities as well, especially we focus on hearing and vision impaired people, because that's where we see the biggest impact. Because usually those people can't go to the gyms, right? Because they can trip over the weights, they're not sure what to do. There is a group classes, they don't understand, they don't see what's going on. They might be really intimidated from the experience. Opposite to Speedfit, where it's very clean, very pristine, there's no equipment, there's no hazard, you can just walk in and the suit guides you through it anyway. So whatever your challenge is, you can be very, very safe and get amazing results. So NDI is one of the modalities. We're launching next month diabetes. We started to work with Diabetes Australia as well on this, because that's where we see massive improvement as well. Similar like we said about this obesity and overweight, and there are a lot of challenges that people with diabetes facing. And one of them is actually the fatigue. They're really tired of doing stuff and so on. So for that person to get you to whatever high intensity interval training, or to go to gym and physically lift something, it's a lot of effort, and they might not cross that bridge, right? But with EMS, they can just stand and we can help them. Then can be the progress that eventually maybe in 1 year they join the gym. Right? We see a lot of people that we actually, it's start of their fitness journey. We don't mind if we'll just help them to get there. They don't obviously need to stay with us. But if we'll get them back to the gym and fitness and activities, and they're going to continue doing something, we feel like we've done our job.
I think there's a lot of opportunity. And then just even as you're talking, I'm thinking about people in my immediate family that would benefit from doing this, right? It's like, and diabetes is one of them. And there's multiple reasons. Old age, I think, as you start to sort of get older, and like I said, they're physically harder to get to the gym and lift weight, and I think there's a big opportunity there as well. I'm really keen to give
one in Belmont.
One in Belmont, is it?
Yeah, there's one in Belmont. Yeah.
Is it Belmont?
Yeah.
Belmont,
no,
Belmont.
Kotara is the closest to you. Yeah, Kotara is the closest. We have Tagra. Tagra is the new site as well. So whatever, Tagra or Kotara probably for you guys will be the closest. So I'll fix you up with the trials.
Super keen.
You can go down and do it at the same time. Like we could both train together.
We could actually. I'm planning to go to. You together. To go to try it? We cater for 4 people. So at the moment it's a 4 people at a time. So pretty much, even if you like, that's why we're trying to create like a small group classes. So probably it's going to be another people with you, but yeah, we can organize it there.
Let's do that. I'll do that. I'm keen to give that a go. I'll get a much better understanding of it. But like, I think if I could, honestly, like if it's something that when you got to feel it, you got to understand it. Once you get it, like I could see myself buying mine and wearing it enough.
Well, if you look at the reformer, for example, like you spent $3,500 on a reformer,
no one's used it,
and like you're not getting the if you could buy a suit for, I don't know what they're worth, but just say they're worth $2,000, right? That you could do it from home.
It's actually much less. It's a rental model, so it's actually as little as it's $8.50 a week, or if you pay upfront, it's like $220 a year that you have suit. Obviously, you need to have a battery at home and a few things, so there is a little bit of subscription to it. But it's suit itself. Yeah, $220 a year is an annual subscription for the suite. Obviously, that's just the suite that you need to come to studio to train. But then we're working now on that subscription that we add a little bit of subscription to it, and you will have the power engine to it, and you will pretty much have the online training as well. So it will be probably maybe somewhere around $25 probably a week that you might be having the full setup for yourself, and it's just a rental system. So if you change the weight, if you grow, or if you drink, whatever, we'll provide you with the new suit. That's why it's like a rental model, because obviously many people will change the sizes as they go.
We'll organise it. We'll go and do a session and see what it's like. But yeah,
even that from a business point of view, right? Like you said before, say you got 80 square meters in the shop. Like if you could scale that from home at $25, which is still very, very cost effective, like you could have. And I'm not sure, like I'm just sort of spitballing here, right? But like, imagine if you had 1,000 people in your territory or franchise, like you're not limited by your...
That's pretty much the world game changer,
yeah.
If you become a franchisee, what I want to say is that as a part of the franchise with Speedfit, you're getting your territory. So let's say we've got a Kotara territory. If you guys sign up for online training, the franchisee getting commissions from every person who's staying there. So even if they don't do the job, even if you just go to the website and sign up for your online subscription, pretty much that you pretty much can scale up your business. So we go, okay, I'm doing my personal training in the studio, I'm doing a small group personal training studio, and then I still can have the pretty much ability to service as many people in the area. So you're kind of buying like a real estate piece and go, okay, everyone who's subscribed in this territory, pretty much I'm going to get my share of the profits from it.
Super interesting. So before we wrap up, what sort of goals and ambitions for the brand? Like, where do you see this sort of landing? Do you have any sort of big, scary goals that you guys want to try to achieve?
Yeah, we wouldn't be here without that, to be honest. Otherwise, I think for every franchisor or a majority of franchisor, probably it's all about these large goals. Otherwise, you will be always better off to be just franchisee, to be honest. I always say, like, when we had 4, 5, 6 locations, the lifestyle and income was probably better than when you are in a large franchise franchise, and you need to scale it up in a very significant way to make it work. I love the journey, and we see that this potential of the business and so on has much more than now around these 30 locations. So we would love to definitely grow this significantly over a couple of years, especially launching New Zealand, going to Australia, and enhancing our product specifically with this technology that we just brought into the market. That's exactly what we wanted to do. We would like to create an ecosystem that you as a franchisee has so many options to make the income. And even if you're thinking that you don't have that money, imagine you could start as a training, just do the mobile training on kind of selling the suits and build your revenue, build your income. And then maybe you can open the studio as a kind of afterwards, when you kind of build number of members, because now pretty much the technology allows you to go outside of the studio. So you can create, maybe you can start with the mobile training, you can start with let's say outdoor sessions and things like this, and build yourself up to own the real estate, build it from the studio, and then go from there.
Very interesting concept. I appreciate your time very much. It was amazing to catch up with you and sort of learn more about Speedfit, you personally, and I'm excited to sort of watch you all play. If there's anyone that's listening that wants to sort of inquire or learn more, like what should they do, or where should they go?
Thank you so much. For a franchise at speedfit.com.au. If the clients, they pretty much can just go to speedfit.com.au and find their way to the closest location, go for a trial session and try them for themselves and see what it's about and go from there.
Legend.
We're going to go give it a go.
I appreciate you, mate.
Awesome,
We'll
guys.
talk really soon.
Thanks, Taylor. Lovely to meet you.
Love it, guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
My pleasure. Thanks, brother. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.